Naked, freezing, and alone, she said. Please imagine I'm your wife. Alex Rains slowly opened his eyes to darkness. The first thing he felt was the cold, bone-deep, biting, and relentless. The hum of the shuttle's life support system was gone, leaving only the soft creaking of the metal cabin and the occasional groan of stressed machinery. He blinked, trying to make sense of the dim red emergency lights flickering around him. Everything smelled faintly of burnt circuits and recycled air. Something had gone terribly wrong. He sat up, his head throbbing from the impact, and looked around. The shuttle's control panels were dead. The screens were dark or flashing warnings he could not read properly. Debris littered the floor. Small tools, a coffee cup, and what looked like pieces of the broken autopilot system. The shuttle had clearly been hit by something, maybe a micrometeor or a malfunction in the propulsion system. Then he heard a faint noise, almost a whisper, almost a sigh. He froze. "Hello," he called, his voice hoarse, echoing softly in the empty cabin. "Alex," the voice was soft, weak, and trembling. "Please help me." Alex turned sharply to the source. In the corner of the shuttle, he saw a pod, one of the cryogenic sleep chambers that had been designed to keep the passengers alive during long space travels. The pod's glass cover was cracked, frost melting rapidly inside. And inside he could see her. Dr. Alara Quinn, a scientist and colleague, lay shivering. Her eyes fluttered open, and she looked at him with a mix of fear and vulnerability he had never seen before. "Dr. Quinn, hang on, I'm coming." Alex rushed over, despite the freezing air that seemed to cut through his suit. He opened the pod and gently lifted her out. Her body was thin and pale, trembling violently. Her uniform had torn during the crash, leaving her exposed. I'm freezing," she whispered, her teeth chattering. She tried to wrap her arms around herself, but it did nothing against the cold that seemed to steal the warmth from her bones. Okay, we'll fix this," Alex said, speaking to calm himself as much as her. He scanned the cabin quickly. The shuttle's emergency thermal blankets were scattered, damaged, and insufficient. He pulled off his own jacket and wrapped it around her as best he could, but it barely helped. I need something more," she said, her voice barely audible. Her eyes searched his face. "Please imagine I'm your wife." Alex froze. The words were strange, intimate in a moment that was supposed to be purely survival. But he understood. She was scared, alone, freezing, and in pain, and she needed comfort, even if it came only from his mind. He nodded gently, forcing a calmness he didn't entirely feel. "Okay, I can do that. I'll keep you safe." He pulled her close, trying to shield her from the cold as he assessed their situation. The shuttle's temperature continued to drop. The emergency lights indicated that most of the power systems had failed. They were adrift in deep space with no working propulsion, communication, or heating. Every minute counted. Alex thought fast. He knew the shuttle's engineering bays, the locations of spare circuits, and the emergency kits. He moved her carefully to a small section of the cabin that still had some residual warmth from the failing circuits. He pulled together blankets, some portable heating pads, and whatever insulation he could find. Each step was methodical. Panic would kill them faster than the cold. "Alex, will we die?" Alara asked, her voice trembling. "No," he said firmly. He did not feel confident, but he could not let her see fear. "We will survive. You just need to stay with me, all right?" She nodded weakly, closing her eyes. Alex kept talking, telling her stories about home, about Earth, about small things they had laughed about on past missions. He used every memory to keep her mind engaged, to distract her from the relentless cold and fear. Then came the hard part. The shuttle's power systems were completely offline, and the life support indicators were flashing red. Without heat, without oxygen flow, and with her weakened state, she would not last long. Alex had to act fast. He crawled into the engineering bay, his fingers numb, searching for any usable power source. The auxiliary battery was damaged, but the shuttle had a small solar energy collector designed for emergencies. He quickly connected wires, improvising circuits with tools he had at hand. Sparks flew, and his gloves burned, but he ignored the pain. Slowly the lights flickered, the emergency heater hummed, and the cabin warmed fractionally. It was not much, but it was enough to keep Alara from freezing completely. "Feeling better?" he asked, returning to her side. "A little, thank you," she whispered. Her lips were blue and her body trembled less, but she was far from safe. Alex held her close, focusing on the warmth they could share and the small gains they had made. Hours passed. Alex worked tirelessly, alternating between engineering repairs and keeping Alara warm and conscious. He created makeshift clothing from blankets, wires, and spare suits, layering them over her. He found a small water reservoir and encouraged her to sip, keeping her hydrated even though she could barely swallow. During a rare quiet moment, she looked at him, her eyes full of trust and gratitude. "Alex, why are you doing this?" she asked softly. "Because it's what humans do," he replied. "We survive, we help each other, we don't give up." She smiled faintly. For the first time since the crash, she seemed calmer. I understand." But the danger was far from over. The shuttle was drifting dangerously close to an uncharted planet. Its gravitational pull was weak but noticeable. Alex studied the navigation system, still offline. He estimated the trajectory using memory and intuition, plotting a potential landing site. It was risky. If they miscalculated, they could crash again, but it was their only chance. As he worked, he continued to comfort Alara. They spoke of home, of family, of simple human pleasures like walking in sunlight or feeling a breeze. He realized that in the vast emptiness of space, human connection mattered more than any technology. The words she had asked him to imagine, her as his wife, became a source of focus and calm. It reminded him of the importance of hope, of empathy, and of the human heart in survival. Night passed in the shuttle, though there was no real day or night. Alex monitored every system, repaired every circuit he could reach, and kept Alara conscious and engaged. He drew patterns on the walls with scraps of paper, used small tools to create warmth pockets, and maintained a rhythm of care that kept panic at bay. Every small victory, a blinking light restored, a spark of heat, a sip of water, felt monumental. By the time the shuttle approached the outer edge of the planet's gravity, both of them were exhausted but alive. Alex had managed to restore partial navigation and life support. The shuttle groaned as it entered the atmosphere. The unknown planet loomed below, strange and alien, yet full of hope. "Alex, do you think we'll make it?" Alara asked, her voice still weak. "Yes," he said firmly. "We just need to trust each other. Humans survive even in the worst conditions. That's what we do." The shuttle descended slowly, buffeted by uneven winds and gravitational anomalies. Alex kept one hand on the controls and one on Alara, keeping her calm through every bump and shudder. And in that fragile moment, the bond they shared, the human connection, the empathy, and the unwavering care, became the strongest force in the universe. Finally, the shuttle touched down on the rocky surface of the planet. Dust and small rocks scattered as it landed unevenly, but it did not break. Alex and Alara had survived the first night. They were cold, battered, and scared, but alive. And in the endless expanse of space, they had each other, humanity's greatest tool for survival. Alex helped Alara out of the shuttle, wrapping her in the last remaining blankets. The air outside was cold but breathable, and strange geothermal vents scattered across the rocky landscape provided warmth. They had a chance now, a chance to survive, explore, and prove that human courage and ingenuity could overcome even the most impossible odds. Alara looked up at Alex and whispered, "Thank you for imagining." Alex smiled faintly, his own exhaustion showing. "I didn't have to imagine. Humans survive and we care. That's what makes us strong." The first part of their journey had ended. The cold, the fear, and the vast emptiness of space had tested them, but it had also revealed the essence of humanity: resilience, empathy, and the unwavering will to survive and protect one another. The alien planet stretched endlessly under a pale green sky, its jagged mountains, and strange rock formations, casting shadows that moved with the faint light of the distant sun. Alex helped Alara to her feet, supporting her as she shivered. The blankets were still damp, and the chill from the shuttle lingered in the air. Despite the cold, there was something alive about this place, something that made him feel cautious but curious. Survival would depend on understanding it quickly. Alex scanned the area. Small plumes of steam rose from cracks in the ground, likely geothermal vents providing some warmth. He guided Alara toward them, explaining carefully, "These vents could keep us warm. We can use them to stay alive until I figure out the shuttle repairs." Alara nodded weakly, leaning on him for support. Every step was slow and painful, but she seemed to gather strength from his calm presence. He realized once again that survival was as much mental as physical. Her trust gave him purpose, and his focus gave her hope. They settled near a cluster of vents. Alex pulled the last remaining thermal blanket around them, using rocks and debris to block the wind. Ilara's teeth still chattered, but the warmth from the vents was a small comfort. She looked at him, eyes wide with concern. How are we going to fix the shuttle? It's almost dead." Alex took a deep breath. "We'll have to improvise. The shuttle systems are mostly offline, but I can reroute power from the auxiliary systems to life support and communications. Then we can signal for help, but it will take time, and we have to stay safe in the meantime." He found some portable tools from the shuttle wreckage, a small toolkit, a few wires, and some electronic components. He sat cross-legged near the vents, unrolling a portable panel he had scavenged from the shuttle's control system. The panel was cracked, wires exposed, but it was usable. He connected it to the partial power source he had restored during the shuttle crash, his fingers moving methodically despite the cold. Ilara watched him quietly, shivering less now as the warmth from the vents seeped into her body. "You really think humans can survive anywhere?" she asked softly. Alex smiled faintly. "We have to. We're the only species that can think, adapt, and work together in impossible conditions. Even here, where nothing is familiar, we can survive if we use our brains and our hearts." She nodded, seemingly reassured. "Brains and hearts," she repeated, almost like a mantra. She leaned back against a rock, closing her eyes briefly. "I trust you, Alex. That makes it easier." Hours passed as Alex worked on the shuttle panel. Sparks flew occasionally, and a small smell of burning plastic filled the air, but the vent's heat kept him from freezing completely. He rerouted the shuttle's remaining power, connecting circuits in ways they had never been designed for. Every connection he made felt like a small victory, a step closer to survival. Ilara helped as much as she could, passing tools, holding wires steady, and offering suggestions. Though her body was weak, her mind remained sharp. Together they made progress, their combined effort reflecting the strength of human collaboration. At one point, Alex paused and looked at her. "You've done more than I expected. Your suggestions actually saved me time." "That's why humans are amazing. We can think in ways machines cannot. We improvise." Ilara smiled faintly. "I guess imagining you as my husband keeps me motivated too," she said with a weak laugh. "Not that I'm imagining that for real, it's just comfort." Alex nodded, understanding completely. "Comfort and hope, those are just as important as circuits and heat. Don't ever forget that." The day passed slowly. The alien sun was dim and distant, giving the landscape a strange, surreal quality. Shadows stretched long, shifting with the uneven light. Alex monitored the shuttle's status constantly. Every successful test of a rerouted system was a small celebration, lights flickering to life, emergency heaters humming, and finally, a weak signal for communication. It wasn't enough to call for rescue yet, but it was progress. Ilara began to regain some strength. Alex taught her how to use the geothermal vents more effectively, digging small pits and placing rocks around them to concentrate heat. They created a simple shelter using debris from the shuttle, blankets, and rocks. The structure was not perfect, but it was enough to block the wind and hold in warmth. As they worked, they talked. About Earth, about what they would do when they returned, and about the small pleasures that had once seemed mundane, sunlight on their faces, the smell of rain, the sound of birds. Those conversations reminded them both why they were fighting to survive. They were not just struggling to stay alive, they were striving to return to the life they loved. Night came quickly. The sky turned a deep shade of green-black, stars scattered like diamonds across the vast darkness. Alex checked the shuttle systems again. The power was stable enough to maintain life support for several hours, and the communications array was now capable of sending a weak signal. It might not reach anyone far away, but if a ship came near, it would guide them. Ilara shivered as the temperature dropped again. Alex wrapped her in layers of blankets, holding her close. "We'll be fine," he said, more to himself than to her. "We just have to last until morning." Morning came slowly. The alien sky brightened slightly, casting strange patterns across the rocky landscape. Alex and Ilara surveyed their surroundings, taking note of resources. The planet was harsh, with sharp rocks and uneven terrain, but there were small plants and moss-like growths near the vents. Water flowed in tiny streams, heated slightly by geothermal energy. Survival was possible, if difficult. Alex decided they would need food soon. The shuttle's reserves were minimal, and they could not survive long without proper nourishment. They explored cautiously, gathering edible plants and using basic filtration methods to make water safe. Each small discovery, a stream with clear water, a plant with edible roots, was a cause for celebration. It reminded them that humans could adapt to even alien worlds, given determination and intelligence. While foraging, they encountered small, harmless creatures, alien insects with bright exoskeletons and strange, musical chirps. Alara laughed softly at their shapes and sounds. Even in the strangest places, life finds a way, she said. I guess humans are part of that, too. Alex nodded. Exactly, life adapts, and so do we. Back at their makeshift shelter, they prepared a small meal with the plants and water they had gathered. Though meager, it restored energy and lifted spirits. Alex continued his shuttle repairs, while Alara rested and tended to minor injuries. Their teamwork was seamless, each supporting the other in ways that machines or technology could not replicate. As evening approached, Alex finally completed a crucial repair on the shuttle's communication system. He tested the signal, and though weak, it transmitted a pulse into space, a beacon of hope for rescue. He smiled faintly, proud of their achievement. "We've done it," he said quietly. "Someone will find us." Alara smiled in return. "I knew we could. Humans always find a way." That night, they sat near the geothermal vent, wrapped in blankets, exhausted but hopeful. The alien sky stretched endlessly above them, but the fear that had gripped them during the shuttle crash had lessened. They were still in danger, but they were alive, and they had each other. Alex thought about the events of the past day, the crash, the cold, the fear, and the slow triumph of survival. He realized that human strength was not in technology alone, but in ingenuity, resilience, and connection. They had survived by thinking, adapting, and caring for one another. Alara leaned against him, eyes closing. "Thank you," she whispered, "for keeping me alive, for imagining me as someone safe and loved." Alex held her gently. "You didn't have to imagine, that's what humans do. We protect, we endure, and we care. That's why we survive." As they drifted into a fitful sleep near the warmth of the vents, the planet around them seemed less hostile. The first day of survival on this alien world had shown them both the strength of human courage, the necessity of hope, and the power of trust and connection. They had survived together, proving that even in the harshest conditions, humanity could endure. Morning would bring new challenges, exploring the planet further, finding more resources, repairing the shuttle completely. But for now, they had warmth, safety, and each other. In the cold and alien darkness of the unknown, they had discovered a simple truth. Humans could adapt, overcome, and thrive when they relied on their ingenuity, empathy, and relentless will to survive. The alien sun had barely risen when Alex woke, feeling the warmth from the geothermal vent under him. The air was still cold, but not as harsh as the shuttle had been. He looked over at Alara, who was stirring, her eyes blinking against the pale light. She smiled weakly at him, and he returned it, feeling a quiet relief. They had survived the first day, but the challenges ahead were far from over. Alex stood, stretching stiff muscles, and scanned the rocky terrain. The planet was strange, full of sharp cliffs, deep crevices, and patches of strange plant life that shimmered faintly in the morning light. He knew that survival meant exploration. They needed resources, water, and possibly higher ground for better shelter. "Alara, we need to explore," he said softly. "We can't stay near the shuttle forever. We need more food, more water, and a better plan for shelter." Alara nodded. "I'm ready," she said, her voice stronger than the day before. Despite her exhaustion, she seemed determined. "We've made it this far. We can keep going." They packed the essentials: blankets, tools, a small container of filtered water, and a few pieces of edible plants. Alex carried a makeshift spear he had fashioned from shuttle debris, not for hunting, but for safety while navigating the uneven terrain. As they walked, Alex taught Alara to observe the environment. They looked for signs of water, checked plant life, and learned to identify the safest paths across jagged rocks. Every step required caution. The planet's surface was unpredictable, and one wrong move could lead to injury. Despite the danger, there was beauty in the alien landscape. Strange flowers with translucent petals glowed faintly, small streams sparkled in the morning light, and distant mountains rose like ancient sentinels. Alex marveled at it but reminded himself to stay focused. Survival was the priority. They came across a shallow canyon filled with steaming vents. The air here was warmer, and small creatures moved among the rocks, tiny insect-like beings that seemed harmless but alert. Alex and Alara crouched behind a rock, observing. "These creatures are small, but they seem organized," Alex whispered. "We should be careful, but they're not a threat," Alara nodded. "It's strange, they almost feel like little reminders that life exists everywhere, even here." They continued exploring, mapping the area mentally as they moved. Alex pointed out potential shelter spots, caves that could be modified, overhangs that blocked wind, and rocky depressions that retained warmth. They marked them in the dirt with sticks so they could find their way back. By midday, they found a small stream heated slightly by underground vents. The water was clear and drinkable after simple filtration. Alex smiled. "We've found a reliable water source." "That's a big step forward." Alara knelt, drinking slowly, savoring the taste. "It feels almost like home," she said softly. Alex smiled faintly, knowing the truth in her words. Survival was not just about physical needs, it was also about emotional strength. Moments like this, small comforts, helped them endure. As they explored further, they noticed unusual rock formations that looked like natural conduits or tunnels. Alex examined one carefully. These might lead to caves or underground spaces. If we can use them, it would provide better shelter and protection from the elements. They entered the tunnel cautiously. The walls were smooth, and the air inside was warmer than outside. Small crystals embedded in the rock reflected their flashlight beams, creating a kaleidoscope of light. It was beautiful, almost magical. "This could be our new shelter," Alex said. "It's protected, warmer, and it will be easier to defend if we need to. Let's make it our base for repairs and exploration." They spent hours clearing debris, rearranging rocks, and setting up a small area with blankets and makeshift tools. Alex rigged a small reflector system using pieces of the shuttle panel to direct sunlight into the cave, providing a bit of light during the day. Alara helped, her movements slower but determined, showing resilience that matched Alex's own. As night approached, they lit a small geothermal vent within the cave, careful to control the heat. It provided enough warmth for them to rest without fear of freezing. They sat together, eating the small ration of plants they had gathered and drinking water. Alara looked around the cave, her eyes reflecting both awe and gratitude. "I never imagined survival could feel like this. Difficult, yes, but also alive." Alex nodded. "That's the thing about humans. We don't just survive, we adapt. We find ways to thrive, even in harsh conditions. This planet is hostile, yes, but it's also full of opportunity." She smiled faintly. "You always know the right thing to say," he shrugged. "I just focus on what humans are capable of. Ingenuity, empathy, and determination, those are our strengths." That night, sleep came fitfully. Every sound from the planet outside made them tense, the wind shifting rocks, the small creatures moving near the entrance. But the cave provided enough protection, and the warmth of the geothermal vent kept them safe. Alex kept one eye open while Alara rested, listening for any signs of danger. Morning brought a new challenge. The planet's weather was unpredictable. Strange fog rolled in, thick and damp, obscuring the landscape. Alex knew that visibility would be limited, making exploration dangerous. But they needed to find more resources. "Stay close," he told Alara as they stepped into the mist. "We'll move slowly and carefully." The fog muffled their footsteps, and shadows played tricks on their eyes. Small alien plants released spores that glowed faintly in the mist, adding an eerie beauty. Alex and Alara moved cautiously, relying on memory and intuition to navigate. They came across a larger stream, deeper and flowing faster. The water was surprisingly warm in places, indicating a geothermal source nearby. Alex tested it with his hands and found that the temperature was safe. "This could be a source of food and water," he said. "We can build simple containers to catch water and maybe even cultivate some plants nearby." Alara's eyes lit up. "We could create a small garden here, something sustainable." "Yes," Alex said. "Even in an alien world, humans can create life and stability. It's what we do." As they worked, Alex noticed strange markings on the rocks, long, thin scratches that seemed deliberate. He examined them carefully. "I don't think these are natural. Some creature made these marks. We need to be alert." Alara nodded, her expression serious. "We should keep moving but avoid confrontation. Survival doesn't need conflict." They spent the day gathering resources and preparing the area near the stream for future use. They carried rocks to create small walls, built simple containers for water, and mapped the terrain mentally for safe routes. Every step was careful, every action intentional. By evening, they returned to the cave, exhausted but satisfied. They had food, water, and a better understanding of the planet. The cave felt safer now, almost like a home. Alex rigged a small alarm system using tripwires and spare wires, designed to alert them if anything approached the cave. Sitting near the geothermal vent, they shared a small meal. Alara looked at Alex, her eyes reflecting both fatigue and admiration. "We've come so far in just a couple of days. I don't know if I could have done this without you." Alex shook his head. "You've done more than you know. We're surviving because we work together. That's what humans do. We support each other, even in the hardest conditions." The night passed with less fear than before. They rested, the warmth of the vent keeping them safe, the sounds of the planet outside becoming familiar rather than threatening. Alex reflected on the day's events and realized something important. Humans were remarkable because of their adaptability and ingenuity. They did not just endure, they learned, innovated, and thrived even in alien environments. Morning came again, and with it, new plans. Alex decided to explore higher ground nearby, hoping to find better vantage points, more resources, and possibly signs of any intelligent life or useful technology. They packed lightly, taking only essentials, and set out cautiously. The climb was difficult. Jagged rocks tore at their clothes, and the incline tested their stamina. But the determination in their hearts kept them moving. Alex encouraged Alara every step of the way, and she supported him in return, carrying tools and helping navigate treacherous spots. When they reached the top, the view took their breath away. The planet stretched endlessly, with mountains, streams, and strange vegetation sprawling as far as they could see. The sunlight reflected off distant crystals, creating dazzling patterns. It was alien, yet full of life and possibility. Alex and Alara stood together, surveying the landscape. "We can survive here," Alex said quietly. "We can thrive. We just have to keep using our minds, our skills, and each other." Alara smiled, exhaustion giving way to hope. "Humans are amazing," she said softly. "We really can adapt to anything." They spent the rest of the day mapping the area, marking safe paths, and identifying resources. By evening, they returned to the cave, tired but confident. They had survived another day, learned more about the planet, and strengthened the trust and bond between them. That night, as they lay near the geothermal vent, Alex thought about the challenges ahead. Repairing the shuttle, finding sustainable resources, and possibly signaling for rescue were still major tasks. But he knew one thing with certainty. Humans could endure and overcome anything when they relied on ingenuity, determination, and each other. Alara drifted off to sleep, and Alex stayed awake for a while, reflecting on their journey. Every obstacle they had faced, every improvisation, and every moment of trust and care had proven one truth: human resilience was unmatched. Machines and technology could fail, alien worlds could be hostile, but humans, driven by intellect, empathy, and courage, could find a way. And on this alien planet, with its strange beauty and hidden dangers, they were not just surviving. They were proving the extraordinary power of humanity in the universe. Morning arrived with a gentle, pale glow stretching across the alien landscape. Alex woke first, as usual, listening to the faint hiss of the geothermal vent and the distant echoes of the strange creatures that had begun to populate the rocky plains. He glanced at Alara, who was still asleep, her face peaceful despite the exhaustion of the past days. He felt a quiet sense of determination. Every day they survived was a victory, and there was still work to do. He pulled on his jacket and checked the shuttle systems once more. The makeshift repairs were holding, but the power output was still limited. The communications array was sending weak pulses, and the life support system had enough energy to last a few more hours. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough to keep them alive while they figured out the next steps. Alara stirred, stretching slowly. "Good morning," she said softly, her voice hoarse from the cold nights. "Morning," Alex replied. "Ready for another day of exploration?" She nodded, determination shining in her eyes. "We need to know more about this planet. Resources, shelter, and maybe even a better signal point for the shuttle." They packed their essentials and stepped out of the cave. The air was crisp but breathable, and the strange light of the alien sun made the landscape look surreal. Alex led the way toward a series of hills he had spotted from the previous day's climb. From higher ground, they might spot resources, potential dangers, or even geothermal activity that could help them survive. As they climbed, Alex reminded Alara about safety. Keep your eyes open, watch your footing, and pay attention to any signs of movement. We don't know this world yet, and we need to be careful. Alara nodded, adjusting her makeshift pack. I understand. We'll move slowly and watch each other's backs. The climb was challenging. Sharp rocks tore at their gloves and jackets, and the incline tested their stamina. Yet each step felt purposeful. Every movement, every choice reminded Alex of the power of human determination. Even in extreme conditions, humans could adapt, endure, and innovate. When they reached the top of the hills, the view was breathtaking. The alien planet stretched endlessly, a mixture of jagged mountains, glowing vegetation, and flowing streams. In the distance, Alex spotted a river that shimmered with strange colors, possibly heated by geothermal vents underground. He pointed it out to Alara. That could be another source of water and maybe even food. We'll need to explore it later. Alara's eyes widened. It's beautiful and alive. Even here in the middle of nowhere, life exists. Humans can thrive too if we work together. Alex smiled. Exactly. We don't just survive, we adapt. We find ways to turn even the harshest conditions into opportunities. They rested briefly, eating small portions of the plants they had gathered and drinking water from the portable containers they had built. Each sip and bite felt like a small victory, a reassurance that their efforts were paying off. After resting, they began their descent toward the river. The terrain was uneven, and strange, bioluminescent plants glowed faintly in the dim light. Alex led cautiously, using a stick as a support and to test the ground ahead. Alara followed closely, keeping her eyes on him and the path. When they reached the river, they discovered something remarkable. The water was warm in spots, likely heated by underground vents, and small alien creatures moved along its edges. Some were harmless, feeding on algae and plants, while others were curious, watching the humans from a distance. Alex observed carefully. We can use this area, water, food sources, and possibly even natural warmth for shelter. Alara knelt by the water, testing it carefully. We could set up a secondary shelter here near the river. That way, we have options and can avoid depending on just one place. Alex agreed. Yes, and it also gives us a better vantage point for exploration. We can scout the area and plan our next moves. They spent the afternoon gathering resources along the river. Rocks were collected to create small walls to block wind, and plants were harvested for food and potential medicinal use. Alex improvised containers from shuttle debris to collect water and store food. Every task required thought, skill, and teamwork. As the sun began to set, they returned to the cave to check on the shuttle systems. Alex repaired minor damages from the previous days, testing circuits and rerouting power where necessary. The life support system held steady, and the communication array continued sending weak pulses. They were not fully safe yet, but progress was undeniable. Alara watched him work. Alex, I've been thinking, humans aren't just strong physically. We survive because of our minds, our creativity, and the way we work together. I see that in you, and I see it in us. Alex nodded, a small smile on his face. That's exactly it. Machines can fail, environments can be hostile, but humans, we find a way. Ingenuity, empathy, courage, those are our strengths, and we have each other, which makes it even stronger. Night fell and the temperature dropped. They wrapped themselves in layers of blankets, using the geothermal vent in the cave for warmth. They ate a small meal and reflected on the day's accomplishments. Each small success, the water source, the safe paths, the minor shuttle repairs, was a testament to human resilience. Alara spoke softly, her voice tinged with gratitude. I was scared when we crashed, Alex. I thought we might not make it, but being here, seeing everything we've done, it feels like we can survive anything. Alex reached over and gently squeezed her hand. We can. Humans endure, we adapt, and we help each other. That's how we've survived for thousands of years, and that's how we'll survive here too. Sleep came slowly but peacefully. They were safe for the night, the cave sheltering them from the harsh elements outside. Alex remained alert, listening to the sounds of the alien world, but for the first time the night felt manageable rather than threatening. Morning arrived again, bringing with it a new challenge. The alien weather had shifted, and a light, misty rain began to fall. Though not freezing, it made the rocky ground slippery and treacherous. Alex decided they would stay near the cave and continue repairs and preparations instead of venturing far. They focused on reinforcing the cave's shelter, adding more insulation with rocks, blankets, and shuttle debris. Alex improved the small water collection system, creating channels to direct runoff from the rain into storage containers. Ilara helped by organizing their supplies and testing the water for safety. As they worked, Alex realized they needed a long-term plan for survival. The shuttle was still partially operational, but full repairs would take time and resources. They would need sustainable food, reliable water, and safe shelter for weeks or even months. Ilara suggested experimenting with growing some of the alien plants near the river. If we can cultivate them, we won't have to keep foraging constantly. It could make life easier and safer, Alex agreed. We'll try it. Humans have always found ways to grow food in new environments. It's another form of adaptation. They spent the day experimenting with planting techniques, observing soil, water, and sunlight conditions. They learned which plants thrived and which were unsuitable for human consumption. Every success, no matter how small, felt like progress. By evening, the cave and river area were more organized and functional. They had food, water, warmth, and a plan. The alien planet was still dangerous, but it was becoming manageable. Alex reflected on the progress and realized how remarkable human adaptability was. They had arrived as strangers in a hostile world and had begun to make it livable through intelligence, teamwork, and determination. Ilara looked at Alex as they settled near the geothermal vent. "I'm proud of what we've done," she said. "It's not just survival, it's thriving in the middle of nowhere." Alex nodded. "That's what humans do. We survive, adapt, and thrive. No matter the challenge, no matter the place, we find a way." Night fell once more, and they rested together near the warmth of the vent. The alien sky stretched endlessly above, stars glinting faintly through the mist and clouds. Despite the isolation and danger, Alex felt a quiet sense of hope. They had made it this far, and the human spirit was proving stronger than any obstacle. Sleep came deep and restorative this time. They were safe for the moment, but tomorrow would bring new challenges, further exploration, continued shuttle repairs, and the need to establish a sustainable system for survival. Yet Alex felt confident. Together they could face anything this alien world offered. Humans had always endured, and they would endure here as well. In the quiet darkness of the cave, Alex thought of the vastness of space and the fragility of life. Yet he also thought of the incredible power of human ingenuity, empathy, and courage. No matter how alone they felt, as long as they relied on their minds, their hearts, and each other, survival was not just possible, it was inevitable. Ilara stirred beside him, murmuring softly in her sleep. Alex smiled faintly, feeling the quiet strength of human connection. They had survived the crash, faced the cold and the unknown, and begun to shape a life on an alien planet. Every small step, every improvisation, every act of care had led them here. And tomorrow they would continue, proving once again the extraordinary resilience of humanity in the universe. The morning light touched the alien landscape softly, casting shadows on the jagged rocks and glowing plants. Alex rose first, his muscles sore but his mind alert. After days of survival, exploration, and improvisation, he felt a quiet determination building. Today, he would focus on completing the shuttle repairs and strengthening their systems for long-term survival. Ilara stirred beside him, rubbing her eyes. "Morning," she said quietly. Her voice was calm, steady. "Ready to continue?" "Always," Alex replied. "We've come far, but today we make more progress. We need the shuttle fully operational and a reliable way to signal for help." They packed their essentials and stepped out of the cave. The air was crisp, but the warmth from the geothermal vents remained a comforting presence. They moved together toward the shuttle, each step purposeful, their trust in each other stronger than ever. When they reached the shuttle, Alex began assessing the remaining damage. The main systems were partially functional, but the engines, navigation, and communications needed careful attention. He had improvised several circuits before, but now he would attempt more complex repairs, rerouting power, replacing damaged components, and testing connections. Ilara observed carefully. Though still weak from the cold and stress of survival, she contributed ideas, held tools, and assisted wherever she could. Her sharp mind was an invaluable resource. "We can try rerouting these circuits through the auxiliary panel," she suggested, pointing to a damaged section. It might give us enough power to restart the navigation system. Alex nodded. Good idea. Let's do it. Together they worked methodically, connecting wires, testing circuits, and improvising solutions. Sparks flew occasionally, but they were careful, deliberate, and focused. Every small success, a blinking light, a soft hum of a motor, a stable power reading, felt monumental. Hours passed, and the sun shifted across the alien sky. The planet's features looked different in its light. Crystals on the rocks shimmered, and small streams reflected the sky's pale colors. Alex paused to take it in. Despite the danger and isolation, there was beauty here. It reminded him why humans endured: curiosity, intelligence, and the desire to explore. By midday, they had restored partial navigation control. The engines could not yet be fully powered, but the shuttle systems were stable enough to maintain life support and communication signals. Alex allowed himself a small smile. "We're getting there," he said. Alara smiled in return. "It feels good to see progress." "Every day we learn more about this planet and ourselves." Alex nodded. "Humans survive not just by strength, but by observation, ingenuity, and collaboration. That's why we can thrive even in the most alien environments." After a short break, they focused on the communications system. Alex had managed to create a weak but stable signal. He knew it could reach passing ships or satellites, but they had to strengthen it to ensure rescue. He climbed into the shuttle's control compartment and examined the array. Alara assisted by holding wires steady and offering ideas for rerouting power efficiently. They worked patiently, improvising with limited resources. Alex had created makeshift antennas from shuttle parts, positioning them to catch maximum energy from the planet's magnetic fields. The process was slow and careful, but eventually the signal grew stronger, pulsing rhythmically into space. Alara watched him with admiration. "I think anyone who receives this signal will know humans are here. We won't be alone forever." Alex smiled faintly. "That's the hope. Humans have always found ways to communicate, even when isolated. That's part of what makes us resilient." After lunch, a small ration of edible plants and filtered water, they decided to explore further. Alex wanted to find higher ground for better visibility and possible natural resources. They packed light, taking only essential tools, water, and blankets, and began climbing a nearby ridge. The climb was steep, but the view at the top was breathtaking. The alien planet stretched endlessly, mountains rising in jagged peaks, streams winding through valleys, and glowing vegetation scattered across the landscape. From this vantage point, Alex could see the area surrounding the shuttle, the geothermal vents, and possible new locations for resources. "This is perfect," Alex said. "We can identify potential hazards, food sources, and safe paths for exploration. We can also scout for other signs of life or activity." Alara nodded, her eyes scanning the terrain. "It's incredible how much we can observe and adapt even here. Humans really do thrive in new environments." As they surveyed the landscape, they noticed something unusual, a faint glimmer far across a valley. Alex squinted. "It could be a reflective rock, or it might be something else. We should investigate." They carefully descended toward the glimmer, moving slowly to avoid slipping on the rocky terrain. As they approached, they discovered a small pool of water reflecting sunlight through mineral deposits, creating a dazzling effect. It was harmless, but it offered additional resources: water for drinking and washing, and a place to test water filtration techniques. Alara knelt by the pool. "This is amazing. We can use this water to supplement the river near the shuttle. It will help sustain us longer." Alex smiled. "Humans are resourceful. We can make the most of any opportunity. Even alien planets have solutions if we look carefully and work together." The return journey to the shuttle was slower, the sun beginning to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the alien landscape. They moved cautiously, aware of loose rocks and uneven ground, but their confidence had grown. They were no longer just surviving, they were learning to live on this planet. Back at the shuttle, Alex checked the power systems once more. The engines were still not fully functional, but the life support and communication systems were stable. Alara helped organize supplies and plan for the next day's work. Together, they had created a functioning base: warmth, water, food, shelter, and communication. As night fell, they sat near the geothermal vent, eating a small meal and reflecting on the past days. Alex spoke quietly, almost to himself. We've endured so much already, the crash, the cold, the unknown, and yet we've survived. Not just survived, but adapted and learned. Humans are extraordinary. Alara reached over and held his hand. I know. It's not just about surviving the planet. It's about surviving ourselves, our fears, our doubts. We've done it together, and that's what makes the difference. Alex nodded, feeling the truth of her words. Humans are capable of so much when we use our minds, our hearts, and work together. We endure because we care for each other and for life itself. They slept that night with a sense of accomplishment. The alien world was still unpredictable, but for the first time they felt a measure of control. They had established a system of survival, improved the shuttle, and created a safe environment. Their ingenuity, adaptability, and teamwork had brought them this far, and tomorrow promised even more progress. The next morning, Alex focused on repairing the shuttle engines. It was the most complex task yet, requiring careful testing of circuits, power rerouting, and mechanical adjustments. Alara assisted wherever possible, holding tools, observing connections, and offering logical suggestions. Hours passed, and progress was slow but steady. Finally, with a soft hum and a flicker of lights, the engines powered up partially. It was enough to stabilize the shuttle and allow for minor maneuvering. Alex allowed himself a small smile. We're almost there. We can move the shuttle if necessary and improve our position for rescue. Alara beamed. I can't believe we did this. Humans really can achieve anything when we work together. Alex nodded. That's exactly it. Intelligence, determination, empathy, and trust, those are what make us strong. The universe is vast and unknown, but we have the ability to face it. They spent the afternoon reinforcing the shuttle systems, testing communications, and planning for a possible rescue. Alex used the shuttle's remaining power to send repeated signals into space. He adjusted frequencies, optimized the signal path, and ensured it could reach distant satellites or passing vessels. Alara observed, helping keep track of energy levels and suggesting ways to optimize the transmission. Together, they had created a system that could alert the universe to their presence. Humans had found a way to communicate, even from a hostile alien world. As evening approached, they returned to the geothermal vent to rest. Alex looked at Alara, feeling a deep sense of pride and connection. We've survived the impossible, adapted to a new world, and created hope in the midst of uncertainty. That's the power of humans. Alara smiled, exhaustion softened by satisfaction. We've done it together, that's what matters most. Night fell, the alien stars glittering above. Alex thought about the journey they had endured, the crash, the freezing cold, the unknown planet, and the constant struggle to survive. They had faced every challenge with intelligence, courage, and empathy. Every step had proven the remarkable strength of humanity. The following morning, a distant signal appeared in the sky, a human exploration vessel responding to their beacon. Alex and Alara watched as the ship descended, small but unmistakable against the alien landscape. Relief washed over them. Their perseverance, ingenuity, and teamwork had worked. They were not alone anymore. The rescue team landed, and Alex and Alara were guided safely aboard the vessel. As the shuttle remained on the planet, partially repaired and stabilized, Alex looked back at the landscape that had tested and taught them. The alien world was harsh, but it had revealed something extraordinary, the strength, adaptability, and resilience of humans. On the journey back to familiar territory, Alex reflected quietly. Humans had survived because they had used their minds, hearts, and creativity. They had adapted, persevered, and supported each other in the most extreme circumstances. That was humanity's true power, the ability to endure and thrive against impossible odds. Alara leaned on his shoulder, smiling faintly. We made it together. Yes, Alex replied softly. Together, humans can overcome anything. The stars stretched endlessly outside the vessel's windows, but Alex no longer felt the fear of isolation. They had survived, adapted, and proven the extraordinary resilience of humanity in the universe. No matter the world, no matter the challenge, humans would endure. They would survive, thrive, and continue to reach for the stars. And in that moment, in the quiet hum of the vessel, Alex and Alara understood something deeply profound. Humanity's strength was not just in survival, but in hope, ingenuity, and the bonds that connected them. The universe was vast and full of unknowns, but humans, together, could face it all.